This video may include some mature imagery and themes not suitable for younger viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello everybody, this is Kirby over yonder, and while a majority of Adult Swim consists of crude, raunchy, and flat-out lazy and stupid shows, there are some Adult Swim shows that manage to be charming in their minimalism, and others that can actually be surprisingly deep. And while most people know Adult Swim as just that channel that airs Family Guy reruns, as well as a certain other cartoon, I thought it would be fun to point out some awesome Adult Swim cartoons. Here we go. Number 5. Moral Oral. While on first glance Moral Oral may seem like a fairly charming religious cartoon, when you really delve deep into it, it is anything but pleasant. The twisted morals, the screwed up imagery, and the blind obsession towards God are all seen through the eyes of a 12-year-old kid. And don't get me wrong, the show is artistic and beautiful, but at the same time it is incredibly hard to watch, especially if you're in a very bad mood, or if you're sensitive to shows that make fun of God. Moral Oral is a show that's so overwhelming that it's very hard to just sit down and casually watch it. But what I think I like most about Moral Oral is that despite growing up in an awful town, Oral still manages to be a good person despite everything. It's actually quite admirable. Moral Oral is certainly not a cartoon for everyone, but if you think you can stomach it, I recommend giving Moral Oral a watch. Number 4. Ballmasters 9009. This is a fairly recent one, but I had a lot of fun watching it, so I decided to include it on the list. Ballmasters is a very interesting cartoon about a team of people who are very bad at sports, trying to be the best at some weird futuristic sport. The show has a really cool anime-inspired art style that reminds me a lot of OKKO. I really love the futuristic setting in this one, and it's a show that clearly doesn't try to take itself too seriously, which makes it very enjoyable. Ballmasters 9009 is a very fun show that I certainly do not regret watching. Can't wait for season 2. Number 3. Aqua Teen Hunger Force. There's something very charming about Aqua Teen Hunger Force. I mean, despite being a weird as hell cartoon about talking fast food products, the dialogue actually feels very natural. It's just a cartoon about 3 friends hanging out. There's something oddly charming about that. Master Shake, Frylock, and Meatwad all have very memorable personalities, which makes for some fantastic comedy. Like a lot of the best SpongeBob episodes, the show manages to take very simple plots and just add so much great comedy to it. If you haven't seen Aqua Teen, I highly recommend giving it a watch. In fact, the final season is actually available for free on Adult Swim's website, so give it a watch. Number 2. Hot Streaks. This is another very recent one, but I just had so much fun with this one that I couldn't not put it on the list. Hot Streaks is a very interesting take on the crime genre, in that each episode is basically just an 11-minute mind screw. There's a lot of creativity in this one, and the comedy is just golden. The comedy basically just relies on how weird the situation is, which may be a turnoff for some, but I love this style of humor. The show is also very self-deprecating in that it knows that it's just a cheap Adult Swim cartoon, but unlike 12 Ounce Mouse, it doesn't use that to be lazy. The show basically just says screw it and has fun with its weirdness. And that's basically what the show is. Fun. It's just a very fun, enjoyable show that doesn't take itself too seriously. I haven't heard a whole lot of people talk about this one, but I really enjoy it, and I really hope it gets a second season. Before we get to the very obvious number 1 entry, let's take a look at a couple of honorable mentions. The Brack Show, a very charming and fun show. However, a lot of what I have to say about it is very similar to what I said about Aqua Teen Hunger Force, but still a very solid Adult Swim cartoon. Venture Brothers. I had pretty mixed thoughts on this one. I absolutely love the main villain, and a lot of the concepts are very creative. However, I found a lot of the main characters to be just kinda meh. Still a good show, but not one of my favorites. Number 1. Rick and Morty. I know most of you saw this one coming, but I can't help it. I love Rick and Morty. It's one of my favorite cartoons of all time. Each and every episode of Rick and Morty just has its own way of screwing with your head and making you question what you just watched, but not in a WTF way, more in a way that you're having fun with the writers. The show is extremely creative, and each episode brings up a new fascinating science fiction idea or takes an interesting spin on a classic idea. Though I don't care much for the rest of the family, Rick and Morty themselves are two of my favorite animated characters. I just love how these two characters bounce off of each other, and I love seeing Morty become more mature as the series goes on. He doesn't just stay Rick's naive sidekick, he grows and changes and develops. Although many people had problems with the third season, I thought it was the best one yet, and I can't wait for even more seasons to come. Though I won't lie when I say I am a little worried about the show's quality, since it's going on for at least 7 more seasons. With the show going on that long, I do feel it may become stale over time. Granted, Rick and Morty is a very creative show, and with science fiction you can pretty much do whatever you want. So maybe for a few more seasons the show will still remain the best Adult Swim cartoon. However, in 10 years, I don't know, the show may become stale. But as of now, Rick and Morty is still my favorite Adult Swim cartoon and one of my favorite cartoons of all time. Although a good majority of Adult Swim shows are very low quality and just bad junk food cartoons, there are a good chunk of Adult Swim cartoons that are very charming, high quality, and just great shows, some of which even gaining cult followings. And whether or not you like Adult Swim, you can't deny that they do allow their creators to express their creative freedom, which I highly respect. Do you think I missed out on any great Adult Swim cartoons? Please let me know in the comments, and I hope your week is pleasant. Kirby, out.